Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 2 Foot Tackle podcast. I'm your host, Matakos, and it is episode 13, I believe. 14. It's episode 14. So we've been doing this for 14 weeks, and I am slowly losing track. But thank you all for the support on the recent episodes. It's been very much appreciated. It warms me. It warms me to see that this is gaining traction and this is going somewhere. It's really good to see. Before I start and before we get through the week's football, let's just do some of the formalities, shall we? So just do it for me. Like and subscribe on YouTube, 2 Foot Tackle Podcast. Yep, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, at 2 Foot Tackle Podcast on all of them. Yeah, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, the whole 9 yards. It makes me very happy to see people are enjoying this. So, yes, that is all for that side of things. How was the week for everyone? For me, it was pretty good. I mean, Carlton won again, so we're 3-0, and they nearly gave me a heart attack, but that's all right. And then, football is back. Club football returns this weekend, so I don't have to watch the Socceroos play until June, which is great, but we'll speak about them still, because there was an announcement midweek which I want to speak about and I want to rant about. So we'll see how that spirals out like I did last week. But so we're going to speak about some title race chat, which is going to be good. Obviously, that certain announcement which I mentioned, the World Cup draw is how the World Cup draw happened. I'll give some very, very early predictions on it. And then there was a protest that happened at my club, at Chelsea. So I want to speak about that, and I want to speak about the potential new ownership. And then, we'll go who went into footed. I think you can all pretty much tell who it's going to be already. And then obviously we'll preview the week. But let's start with some title race chat. Why don't we? Why not? Let's do it. So there's 2 title races which are going down to the wire. It is obviously in England and then in Italy. Yes, England and Italy. So we'll go through them both. I know I've spoken about the Liverpool City title race quite a bit, and also obviously I'm very vocal that I want AC Milan to win the one in Italy. But let's go with England first, and obviously Liverpool beat Watford pretty comfortably. I think it was 2-0 in the end, and it was a game which didn't pose any threat. In my opinion, I went into that game thinking Liverpool will win and will win comfortably. There was no doubt in my mind that Liverpool were going to win that game. They're the much better team at Anfield. I know it was the early kickoff, so they always conjure up some surprises, but I was pretty confident that they would win, and they won comfortably. And then obviously a few hours later, so that put them top of the league only for a few hours, because in the 12 o'clock kickoffs, or on the 1 a.m. kickoffs in Australia, City played Burnley. Yes, they played Burnley, and they won 2-0. Gundogan and De Bruyne, pretty standard stuff. I mean, I didn't watch the game because Chelsea were on, but looking at the stats, they killed them. I caught a bit of the mini match and a bit of the highlights, but it was just your standard affair, and I'm not really sure there's too much to speak about that. I was obviously very vocal. Well, but before I say that, the equation now is City lead by 1 point with -5 goal difference on Liverpool. So Liverpool have a +5 goal difference, but a 1 point behind. Now, that makes that game... Is it next week? I think it might be next week, or the week after. But that makes that game very, very... so it is this week. So I didn't realise that, but we'll preview that once I finish my talking point. But yes, City versus Liverpool is this week. And so we'll get to that a bit later. But obviously I was very vocal about I've been speaking about this title race pretty heavily throughout because I find it very interesting, and I think this weekend just showed how good both teams are. Like, both teams are scary good, and it's not even like, I know they only won 2-0 against relegation teams, but good teams find, like, the best teams you don't upset the best teams. Like, it's very rare that you do, and the fact that they were just they were able to easily breeze past two teams fighting for their lives. Like, let's not forget, Watford and Burnley still have things to play for. The fact that they were able to breeze past them without even sweating, it was pretty good to see. Pretty good. It shows the quality of the league, and it shows how good that both teams are. But yeah, let's preview the game because it's happening on Monday. So I will be able to give a proper review, I'm pretty sure, yeah. I will be able to give a proper review. It's on the 11th. So this game is the Premier League Grand Final, to put it in Australian terms, and it is a game that just it almost transcends football in a way, because it's kind of this story of two teams and two organisations and two sets of people that are pushing each other to the absolute limits. And it is at the Etihad, and they've had some famous battles at the Etihad in the past. Obviously you had the Champions League leg, which Liverpool won, and then you have had the Premier League final 3 seasons ago that City won, and Liverpool thought they'd scored, but John Stones' clearance with, I think it was 13 millimetres or like 3 millimetres, it was a very tight margin, stopped that from happening and broke Liverpool hearts. But it is a thing of City, is this a game where Pep overthinks? Because Pep has a tendency to overthink. We see that a lot in the Champions League. Obviously, they have fallen at the Champions League at various stages to teams that they should have beaten. I spoke about that Champions League tie. They should have beaten Liverpool that season. They were a much better team than Liverpool that season. They got knocked out to Monaco, got knocked out to Spurs, to Lyon, and then obviously to Chelsea in the final. And those were games where Pep just did slight little tactical adjustments and tinkered with the team unnecessarily. I think, speaking on the Champions League final last year, not playing a defensive midfielder and playing Gundogan as your defensive midfielder was a borderline boneheaded decision, because it just showed that he panicked in that game, because Rodri or Fernandinho were so integral to that system. Well, they were last season, and they were the reason why they were able to have this pretty much front five, which were just free. Like, they could just play whatever system they wanted in an attacking third because they had the security. And not playing one of them gave Chelsea too much freedom and gave them too much. It allowed them to be too big of a threat on the counter-attack. And then we saw, obviously, through that goal where there was a gaping hole in the middle of the defence. And the reason why that is because Gundogan was caught out of position, and the other midfielders, I'm not too sure who played central midfield in that game, so forgive me, but Gundogan, his obviously attacking instinct and his progressive instinct pushed him higher up the ground and maybe caught himself out of position. And that allowed that in turn causes chain reactions of Kyle Walker being in a no man's land because he couldn't press the pass, but he also needed to stay back in position, but he couldn't move because then there was an out ball in behind him, and obviously the run from Timo Werner was exceptional. And that goal doesn't happen if Fernandinho is just there plugging the hole, or Rodri. So you see one slight tactical decision and tinkering of the team can have a drastic effect on the game. And it's not only with the goal, but in an attacking sense as well. I think having an elite defensive midfielder is one of your best attacking weapons because it gives you so much license. I mean, we see now with Liverpool, they have Fabinho rather, as sitting at the base of midfield, and that allows Trent, that allows Robertson and that front three to just play with such freedom. And it's not only a defensive midfielder, but it's also Henderson. I think Jordan Henderson is going to be really key in this game if he starts. I think he might be injured, so I don't know. But someone like a Jordan Henderson or a Fabinho, having two very just diligent and sturdy central midfielders gives your team so much freedom. Like, the reason why Trent has had such a good season this year is because he's able to come into that right half space, push a little bit more in, push further into the ground and push higher up, because Jordan Henderson, or it was oh my god, the lad who got injured has escaped me, but it was Harvey Elliott. That's what it was. It was Harvey Elliott before his injury earlier this season, where he was pushing out wide. They were almost playing overlapping central midfielders on the right hand side, where Trent would come into the half space, and then the right side of centre mid would push out wide, covering that channel, and then also adding that a little bit of defensive security. But that's one of the reasons why Trent has been able to be unlocked this season to a greater extent, because so Henderson did play, and they played Curtis Jones as well. And Curtis Jones is another player that can play that role, that really diligent role. I know Trent didn't play on over the weekend, but Joe Gomez did a fantastic job in pretty much replicating him. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Trent will be fit. I'm not sure. Is he injured? I probably should have researched it, but yeah, Joe Gomez played exceptionally well. So if he can replicate that performance, I think they'll be fine. Though it's a bit sore, but it's alright, we move. So I went on a little bit of a Liverpool tangent there, but with City, for me in this game, they would have to start Kevin De Bruyne as a false nine. The reason for this is a couple fold, if that makes sense. But I'm pretty sure he started as a false nine. No, he didn't. It was Grealish. Okay. What am I thinking? Oh, no. Okay. I think De Bruyne should play as a false nine in this game for a couple of reasons. I know, obviously, he's not as fluid as like a Sterling or a Foden or even Grealish, but he provides that body. And in order to combat Liverpool's defensive midfield, or that sturdy midfield, you need to be able to have an outball. Where if City are so good, so they'll probably be able to pass through their midfield anyway. But having De Bruyne up front, who can take the ball, play a little bit with his back to goal, but he's also technically one of the best players in the world, so he can take it on a half turn and hit it first time, or he can drive at the defence like he did against Chelsea. Like his goal against Chelsea is something that could be exploited against Liverpool, because Liverpool's back four, although they play very high up the ground, they also love to retreat, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's also because their fullbacks push so high that there's always space like behind the fullbacks. So their two centre halves, Van Dijk and maybe Matip or Kanate or whoever, are inclined to push back rather than being aggressive, because if they're aggressive, that just creates more space in behind. So De Bruyne is a very good player at taking the ball in a half turn and really driving at the defence, and he can shoot from pretty much anywhere and make a good effort of it. So I think De Bruyne should start as that false nine. I'm not too sure how many times he started as that false nine in recent games, but I think if you can have him as that false nine and then really kind of push either side of him with pace, maybe Sterling, maybe Mahrez. I don't know if they're both fit or if there's any injuries, but having pace either side. And I think Bernardo Silva played a fantastic game against Liverpool early this season. He could be a talisman in a way, where he can unlock that, because he so technically gifted, Bernardo Silva. But I think De Bruyne as a false nine could be the key to unlocking the very few faults in the Liverpool defence. Moving on to Liverpool in terms of how they can win this game even. And I think I spoke a little bit about it what I said before is that their midfield, it just needs to be sturdy type thing, and giving the fullbacks license to roam and giving that front three license to roam is something that's so vital in this game. So I would play a midfield of both Fabinho and Henderson if possible, because if they're both fit, that is. The reason of this is twofold. It's twofold. It's one, purely for the defensive solidity that it provides. Like, no doubt that both Henderson and Fabinho are both defensive-minded midfielders. They're both players that like to play on the back foot, which isn't a bad thing. By back foot, I mean their tendency is to play a little bit more defensive and to play a bit conservative, which isn't a bad thing at all. So that reason, and also because it allows what I said, freedom. And I go back to that word freedom because that's why Liverpool are so good, is because their attacking players are given so much freedom. Obviously because Van Dijk is one of the best centre-halves in the world, and because Fabinho and Henderson, if they play together, can shut down any counter-attack, are really good at just recycling the ball as well, which is very important. And they're also bodies. I know Fabinho is pretty lanky and pretty tall. Henderson is a prick when he plays. He loves to get stuck in, which Liverpool fans love, I would assume. As your captain, you'd want him to be. So, yeah, I would start both Fabinho and Henderson. Who do you play with them? Is it a Thiago? Is it a Curtis Jones? Do you shove him in the limelight and say, okay, be that maybe the more advanced of the three in midfield, play that number 8 role and try and make a difference? I don't know. Obviously, talent-wise, Thiago is by far the better option because he's just brilliant. And something that has just come to my mind is James Milner played the first game against City this season. I think he did play a right back, and Phil Foden gave him an absolute bath. So whether it's Joe Gomez or Trent playing on the right side of the fence, I'm pretty sure Trent's injured. I just want to make sure of that. No, he was on the bench, so he's not injured. I'm not sure they even have any injuries, to be honest. But I just need to double check this. No, they don't. Curtis Jones is injured. Oh, that's because he got subbed off. Right, okay. So maybe you don't play Jones. Maybe you play Thiago and give him that further license to push up the ground. Push up the pitch and make those final third passes in between the lines. But potentially the only issue with Fabinho, Henderson and Thiago in that midfield is that they could get overrun by like a Bernardo Silva because none of them are really physically imposing. Like, they're not like a N'Golo Kante type centre mid where he can just go all day, very quick, very dynamic. They're all very just sturdy. So potentially that's an issue which I'm pretty sure Klopp would know how to counteract that because he's Jurgen Klopp. So obviously you got to be wary that Milner probably won't play right back this game, so Foden won't have, or if Foden plays on the left, Foden won't have that freedom and that ability to skin his opponent. Obviously Trent isn't the best defender in the world, but he's still very solid. Like, I think he gets underrated in his defensive ability. He's still very good, right? So I think both goals did come from the left-hand side in that game for City. So yeah, it's gonna be a time where it's gonna be a game which is decided by moments, I think, and it's gonna be if Pep overthinks it or not. Do I think he overthinks it? I probably not. Like I said, I would start De Bruyne as a false 9, and I would play Rodri holding as an absolute must. This game's going to be one of those where it's gonna be like a big match feel. Like, it's gonna have that hype around it. It's gonna have that intensity around it. I think players that could make a difference. Luis Diaz, it's his time, I think, to just really pronounce himself as a Liverpool player. And also Jack Grealish. I mean, two new signings who I mean, Luis Diaz has played very well in his brief stint in Merseyside, but Jack Grealish hasn't hit the ground running as what some fans thought he would. He still played very well, and he's still a very good player. But yeah, it's one of those things where they need a game. They need a game to announce themselves, and I think it could be one of those games for either of those two players. Prediction. Oh, jeez, this game is so tough to predict. I'm going to go with 2-1 because Ruben Diaz is out, which is a massive loss, and it could prove to be potentially game changing. I mean, I don't know if he's out. It says mid-April on FOTMob, so if he ends up playing and I get my prediction wrong because of it, blame FOTMob. But I'm going to go with 2-1 Liverpool. I reckon Diaz with a brace. And Diaz with a brace, and we'll give Foden a go as well. I love Foden, so I reckon Diaz will score first. Foden will return the favour, and then Diaz will score in the second half with about half an hour to play, give or take. So yeah, City fans, don't come at me, please. And it's going to be your fault if you lose, not mine. So yes, I'm just looking at the depth. Yeah, so it's Ake and Laporte played in the last game, which is interesting. I don't think Diaz was on the bench. Diaz is not on the bench, so if he plays, that's not my fault for getting it wrong. Yeah, so I think that's enough for the title race chat for the English side of things, and I'm aware that it's coming up to 20 minutes already. And I've got a couple more talking points I don't know to go through, but I want to go through the Italian title race as well. So at this stage, it is AC Milan on 66 points, Napoli on 66 points, and Inter Milan on 63 points. And both Milan teams have a game in hand. So AC Milan and Inter have a game in hand, which, if things fall AC Milan's way, it could completely shut the title race out. They will be 3 points clear of Napoli and 9 points clear of Inter, should Inter lose their game in hand. But yeah, that's finally we have a competitive league in Italy again, which is good, because I know last year wasn't the Juventus runaway league that we've experienced for the last decade, but it was still pretty solid in the way that it happened. And yeah, so there's no big games coming up, so I was just checking that. Yeah, so I want AC Milan to win. I think AC Milan will win the league. There, again, it's one of those ones where you can't really predict, or you can predict it, but it's so tight. And this goes with the English one as well. It's so tight that a 90th minute equaliser from Roma, or from whoever, right? From Sampdoria, like a 90th minute equaliser could completely skew the title race. I'm going to go with AC Milan. I've said it. I said I would love Napoli to win. I don't want Inter to win. Fuck Inter. I would love Napoli to win, but I would love AC Milan to win just a little bit more. For Giroud as well. I love Giroud. Yeah, so I'll go with Milan. We'll keep tabs of both of these. We'll do a review of the Liverpool City game as well next week on next week's pod. We'll do an in-depth review on that one, I think. Why not? Yeah, so that's title race chat done, I'm pretty sure, and we'll obviously, like I said, we'll keep tabs of these ladders throughout the league and as it progresses, because we're getting a month left of the season, so you never know. Like, it's very tight. And now moving on to another talking point. I'll keep this brief because I really don't want to speak about it for too long because it'll get me very angry. But midweek there was a media release statement, which Football Australia released, basically outlining that Graham Arnold will be remaining as Socceroos coach for the rest of the qualification campaign. I just have a couple of thoughts on this, both directed at Football Australia and directed at Graham Arnold. Football Australia, it is just a boneheaded decision. Like it's clear that you guys are completely incompetent and you don't know what you're doing. You're failing at your job to bring success to this country, in a footballing sense. You're failing by keeping him in a job. You are showing no ambition. You're showing no drive, and you're showing no will to win and will to succeed and will to challenge anything. It's just very disappointing. Like very disappointing, the fact that we're here again and we're doing this disappointment again, and we're going to be doing it again in June. So, and on Graham Arnold, it just shows that you're a selfish man. To put in a very blunt term, it's clear that you're not good enough to coach the Socceroos. It's clear as day. Yet you maintain this position of power for a reason, I don't know, but you do. And it's upsetting because as someone who wants football to succeed more than anything, it just shows this complete boys club mentality of let's just keep one of our own in charge, and a man with dignity and a man with integrity would hand his notice in straight away, because with this cattle, with this group, where we were after 3 games, it's not good enough. That's all. Not good enough. You should not be in a job. And the fact that you're staying in a job just shows you don't have Football Australia, you don't have the success of the Socceroos as your number one priority, which, as the coach of the Socceroos, very disappointing. I'm not even angry at this stage. I'm just really upset at the way that this has unfolded. And while we might beat UAE, I don't think we'll beat Peru. I mean, we're a better chance than we were in 2018, but yeah, it sucks because it's the same thing over and over and over again, and it's not going to change, which is very disheartening. So let's move that. Let's speak on what sparked this talking point, is the World Cup draw. It did happen this week, and it was... I want to speak about the event itself because it occurred 3 a.m. local time. So me being the idiot that I was like, I'll stay up. We'll start at 3. I'll be in bed by 3:30, 3:45. No worries. It started at 3. The first ball was drawn at 3:45. Now, this was because I had to introduce 56 million people. 150 million people had to do a speech. And Idris Elba decided to host. I mean, Idris Elba. I mean, with all due respect to Idris, you're great at whatever you do. Why are you hosting? Why are you hosting or emceeing? And I thought that was the most bizarre thing of the night. Jermaine Genius got the gig of hosting, of like being the MC of the award, of the draw. Jermaine Genius. His agent must get the biggest pay rise, because how's he plucked a gig from literally nowhere is beyond me. But anyways, it is what it is. I will go through the World Cup. I'll go through quick predictions, really brief predictions, because I don't want to do it now because we're in April. And just a heads up, at this stage for the 2 Foot Attacker podcast, there will be a podcast every single match day for the World Cup. And what I mean by that is every single time a game is played, or every single time a day has gone during the World Cup where games have been played, there will be a podcast reviewing that. Now, I say that now in April. In November, I might change my mind because I don't really want to stay up till 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock to watch the games. But I've made this commitment now, and if I can be bothered to do it in November, I'll do it in November. So that's what I'm saying right now. But let's just go through group by group who I think is going to go through and who I think might be in the final. And even if it doesn't match up with the groups, I'm just going to say it. Group A, I think it'll be Qatar and Ecuador, Senegal, Netherlands. I think it's Netherlands, Qatar. Group B, England, Iran, USA, Ukraine, Scotland or Wales. I think if it's Scotland or Wales, it will be England and Scotland or Wales. So if either of them get through, they'll finish second with England finishing top. If it's Ukraine who get through, the US will finish second. Group C, Argentina, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Poland. It's going to be Argentina top and Mexico second, I think. Yes. Group D, France, Australia, UAE or Peru, Denmark, Tunisia. It's going to be Denmark and Australia. Trust me. Group E, Spain. Group A, Spain, Group A, Spain, Germany, Japan, New Zealand or Costa Rica. Spain, Germany, I think in that order as well. For Group F, Belgium, Canada, Morocco, Croatia. It's going to be Croatia top, Belgium second. Group G, Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. Brazil first, Switzerland second. Group H, Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, Korea. Portugal top, Korea second. We'll do that. The winners, I think England will win it. It will be England versus Spain in the final. I can say that. Is that even possible with how the draw happens with the groups that I've picked? Who knows? But they are my very early World Cup draws. I just want to make that brief because we're in April. A couple of storylines, as you can tell, I said that. As you can tell, I said that France won't make it out of the group. Firstly, I don't rate France. I don't think they're good. Secondly, I don't think they're good. And I say this, and people have receipts. And you know who you are. People have receipts where I said before the Euros that they won't make it past around the 16. And for those who have receipts, you know who you are. Yeah, I don't actually rate them. I think they're very gettable. All you need to do is restrict space. Restrict space in behind, restrict space in between the lines, and you'll beat them. They're my thoughts on it. And yeah, it's England's time to win it. They've got a really easy group. They've got a really easy draw if it pans out how it's expected to pan out. I think they're primed to win it. I think it's set up for them to really explode and become the powerhouse that they want to be, and this group has the potential to be. I think Uruguay, obviously I said Uruguay won't go through. I just don't... I might change that. No, I'll go Uruguay won't go through. I just don't think they're that good. Is that harsh to say? I don't know. I think it's more the fact that I really like Korea. And I feel like that group will be the most even... maybe not the most even group, but it's going to be a pretty good group. A lot of people are sleeping on Qatar. I just want to say that as well. A lot of people I've seen is Netherlands, Senegal. That's a canter, really. But, yeah, I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think for Senegal. Qatar are very good. They won the Asian Cup for a reason. And they're the hosts, so there's always going to be that extra motive. We've seen the hosts do really well. Obviously, at 2010 South Africa, but that was really the African World Cup. Obviously, at Ghana. I know that's a technicality, but obviously 2014 Brazil did well until the semi-final. 2018 Russia did well. 2022 I think Qatar will do well. The USA really like their team, really like their squad. I just think it's 1 year too early, and I'm not really sure they're going to be worried about this World Cup. They're just going to be looking for progress for 2026. Group C, not a lot to talk about. Group D already went through France. Spain, I reckon Spain are a very good chance of doing well in this tournament. I really like their team and I really like the system. I thought they were a little bit unlucky in the Euros, and yeah, I just really like their team. And hopefully New Zealand can do what they did in 2010 and not lose a game, not win one, but not lose a game either. Group F, yeah, Croatia, Belgium. I really like Croatia. I still think they can dominate pretty much most games. Modric is still an absolute freak. It's not even funny. So I think they'll do pretty well. And then you have obviously Canada, Morocco. I think will be and then Canada will obviously be the dark horse, if you can call it that, but the team that could do well or could not do well, depending on. Obviously, you have Alphonso Davies, Jonathan David, and the like, who could provide a spark. There's an upset brewing with Canada. I feel. What other groups are there? Oh my god, I've just popped it back up. Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. I think this is the group of death. Yeah, group of death, if you can call it that. I think Cameroon will make a good account of themselves. Obviously, Brazil are the favourites. Serbia, Switzerland are probably the two most evenly matched teams in terms of per group. Per group, teams that are evenly matched. Spain, Germany as well, but I really like Serbia and Switzerland. Switzerland obviously had that fantastic Euros. And yeah, I think they showed that they can beat the best teams in the world. They beat France, which I predicted. So again, I'm telling you, France. I'm making this prediction right now, and I'll say this now, and I'll say it in November, unless something drastically changes. France will not make it out of the group stage in World Cup 2022. There. I'll say it again. France will not make it out of the group stage at Qatar 2022. Bang. Said it. So, yeah, there's that. I think Serbia, Switzerland, both very good teams, and it could go either way, but I just think Switzerland will get it done. And then, I already went through Group H. So, they're my World Cup predictions at a very early level in April and on a holistic level. So yes, they are my World Cup predictions. Now, moving on to the final main talking points. It was the Chelsea protests over the weekend. I say protests, it was about 100 people outside the ground, but I wanted to speak about what they were protesting about. Obviously, Roman Abramovich ousted, swatted away, banished into the shadow realm by the UK government. So we need a new owner. Now, a list of candidates has been cut down to 4. And those 4 are the Ricketts family, which we'll speak on, Stefan Paguilica, sure, Todd Bowley, and Martin Burton. Sir Martin Burton, I think. Now I want to speak about the Ricketts family first. Now, the Ricketts family are very contentious at the moment on Chelsea, especially Chelsea Twitter, and just Chelsea in general, because they are one of the families which are potentially going to buy Chelsea, and basically, as a message from a Chelsea supporter to them, fuck off. I don't want to beat around the bush, but don't even dare come near our football club. You've been told you're not welcome. Stop trying to force your way into this football club. It's not hard. You can clearly see no one wants you. Take the hint. Piss off. Go away. Go away. Get out of West London, for God's sake. You've run the Chicago Cubs into the ground. You have terrible. Your moral compass is off the fucking. It's pointing the exact opposite direction to what society values. You're racist. You're a racist family, and we Chelsea supporters don't want you owning Chelsea Football Club. So get out. End of. Don't even try to buy it. There'll be a riot. There'll be riots. Chelsea Twitter has been the most vocal I've ever been. It's the most united I've ever seen it. And while there might not be riots, and while it might not be it might not get as much publicity as it potentially should or could. If the Ricketts family buy Chelsea, they'll run it just like the Glazers. They'll run it just like Stan Kroenke and the Kroenke family. They'll run it into the ground. They'll use it as a little insurance policy. And they'll take the soul and they'll take the culture away from Chelsea Football Club. And I understand that culture was built off the back of an oligarch and it was built off the back of some very illegitimate money. I understand that. But the culture's set now. We're a winning football club. We win. We are winners. Don't ruin that. The Glazers ruined the United culture. The Kroenkes ruined the Arsenal culture. Don't even think about if like, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. They're going to come into, if they come into power, they're going to move away from the Stamford Bridge. They're going to turn it into flats because it's one of the most expensive pieces of real estate in the world. They're going to sell it, knock it down, turn it into flats. They're going to move us to London, like central London, find a stadium, build a stadium that's as empty as all hell in terms of soul, and we're going to end up like Arsenal. It's going to happen. So, get out. That's my passionate plea to the Ricketts family, because you're just not welcome. They're my thoughts on the Ricketts family itself. I'm not too clued up on the other potential consortiums or people that are going to be potentially buying Chelsea Football Club. I know Todd Bowley is very popular amongst Chelsea fans. He's a Chelsea season ticket holder. He sits in the Matthew Harding lower. He's one of us. There's some aspects of his consortium which I'm a bit fan of. There's aspects in which I'm not. And then obviously I don't know too much about the others. But yeah, it's the worst nightmare is about to be realised for Chelsea fans, and this club is worth so much more than just being another insurance policy to some American billionaire. And the Ricketts family have shown that they will not have Chelsea Football Club as their number one priority. They'll not have the success of the football club anywhere near their list of priorities. It is a profit-making scheme. It is ripping the money out of the football club, and it's Arsenal 2.0. It is Arsenal 2.0. And it sucks, and it's shit, and it's bound to happen, but it's going to happen because it just is. If that happens. If they are given the job. If they own Chelsea Football Club, the Chelsea Football Club will run itself into the ground. I really don't want it to happen, but who knows? I think that's it for the main talking points. So now we're going to move into the only segment of this podcast, Who Went In Two-Footed. Now, this is simple. It's Graham Arnold. And for those who don't know Who Went In Two-Footed is, go back to the previous 13 episodes and skip to about 40 minutes in, or skip to about 10 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go, 7 minutes to go, and you'll see. Who Went In Two-Footed? Graham Arnold. Of course it's Graham Arnold. You selfish man. I don't really want to speak about him because I'm just going to get angry and I'm going to go on a rant, which I went on last week, and I'm going to get very angry and I'm going to get frustrated and start just being something I don't want to be. So, yeah, Who Went In Two-Footed? We'll move on from there. We'll preview the week now. I just need to make sure I get the fixtures up to see what we're talking about. Obviously, United City versus Liverpool, which I already spoke about. Crystal Palace versus Arsenal is happening tonight. It would have already happened by the time this comes out. Massive game for the top four. I think Arsenal should win that, but Palace are no slouch. They've got a very well knitted squad. They're very well coached, and I think Conor Gallagher's a star. Guay and Anderson are stars. Tyrick Mitchell's coming on leaps and bounds. I think they really like their team, but I just think Arsenal will be too strong for them. Obviously, Champions League quarterfinals midweek, so we'll give a quick prediction for all those ties. Benfica, Liverpool. Liverpool 2, Benfica 0. City, Madrid, Atletico, that is. I think City will win 1-0. Then you have Chelsea versus Real, Chelsea 2-0, Villarreal, Bayern Munich. I'm going to go with 1-1. I'll go 1-1. I think Villarreal will hold Bayern Munich at home to a draw. And then obviously the Europa League. At the 4 games, Leipzig versus Atalanta. I think a 1-1. I'll go with the draw. Braga versus Rangers. I think Rangers 2-1. Frankfurt, Barcelona. I think it'll be 0-0. I think Frankfurt will hold Barca at home. And West Ham versus Lyon, probably the best game of the week, of the group, of the quarterfinals. West Ham 1-0 at home. There is a Melbourne derby this weekend, which is going to be massive. Victory versus City. Victory needs to win, and if they do win, they're going to charge their way back to the top of the table. Maybe, no, they're not, but they're going to pretty much secure finals and push their way up the table, which is good. Any big games? I don't think so. Everton United, battle of who can be the shittest team. So that's going to be good fun to watch. No other important Prem games. Obviously, City Liverpool being the only exception. And yes, that is it. So, hope the week treats you well, as always. And as you leave, if this is your first episode, give it a subscribe on YouTube. Give it a like on YouTube. Follow it on Spotify. 5-star rating on Spotify and all of the other podcasting networks. It would mean more than the world to me. At 240 Tackle Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We don't have Facebook yet. Do I think I'll ever get Facebook? Probably not. But if there's a demand for it, then why not? Let's get on Facebook. Let's go back to 2006. And obviously, as always, there will be clips on YouTube. So if you don't want to hear me speak, if you don't want to hear me talk for what would be just over 40 minutes now. If you don't want to hear me talk for just over 40 minutes, you can just hear me. You can hear me talk for only 10. So there you go. Thank you all very much for watching. Stay well, stay safe. See you guys next week, and goodbye.